Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Tracy Schroyer, and I'm a few minutes late this morning jumping on. I really had a hard time getting out of bed this morning. It's very cold and snowing already again in Ohio this morning, and I just wasn't feeling it. I had to have dogs kick me out of bed so I'd get up. Based on last year and all I went through with my breast cancer, I thankfully am doing very well. I'm on a medication for the next 10 years, and it swells my hands and sometimes my feet, but it's more my hands. So in the morning, it's so hard because they hurt so much. So enough of that, enough complaining, enough whining. So today I want to talk to you about the topic of networking as an introvert. And the interesting thing about this is I had originally scheduled to talk about this on Monday and changed some things around just because of ideas that came up and then other conversations and everything. But what's interesting is I had already said as of like 2 days ago, okay, I'm going to talk about this topic Thursday morning when I get on. And last night I had a great conversation with Ankit Shah. So shout out to Ankit. He's amazing. He's our diversity and inclusion expert for real. So we have some great things coming within the virtual campus and even before we get to the virtual campus related to that. So we started that conversation and working on getting all that ready. But one thing that was interesting is he mentioned about networking as an extrovert. And I just started to laugh because I never told him about the topic that I had written. I had taken some notes and everything and gotten ready. So networking as an introvert. So I am very much an introvert. Some days, I think as the years go farther and farther out, I come closer and closer to that line of being extrovert, but I can't say I've crossed over that line at all. So being an introvert or an extrovert has to do with where you get your energy from. A lot of people confuse introverts with being shy. And I can tell you that's not the case, but I have met a ton of introverts who have been or are currently very shy, very quiet. So it's not the same, but they do have that quality typically. I used to be very shy and quiet. To think that I would do this Facebook Live 2, 3 years ago or more, out of the question. No, not at all. I was terrified to speak in public and to get out there, put myself out there. So as an introvert, it has to do with you getting your energy from within yourself, whereas extroverts, they get their energy from other people typically, and it gets them excited and riled up. So it doesn't mean that you can't do certain things because you're an introvert or an extrovert. You just have to think of the situations that you're going into and how you might handle them a little bit differently because of that quality that you have. So for me, if I go to a conference, if it's a typically a day or a couple day conference, and when they were in person, I would literally be exhausted from going from session to session, being around all of these people. A lot of people are energetic when they go to conferences, at least the ones I've gone to, are very excited about the topics and the speakers and things like that. And it's a little bit draining because it's just overwhelming. So I need to kind of step away. And sometimes I've had to not go to like an evening event, or I might skip a session in the middle of the day so I can just walk away, have my quiet downtime, and kind of rebuild my energy back up so I can go back into that environment. And I will tell you, so I say I'm kind of close to that extra, more closer to the extrovert piece. So I think it was 2019. I had worked really closely with my awesome friend Carrie. She's out in Denver, and we did MC. We were both MCs for a work event, and it was, oh gosh, was it 2 or 3 days? It was a couple jam-packed days, really. And so we were the MCs, and people didn't know either of us as getting up there and being able to speak. So it was pretty funny when we did get up there and we kind of related ourselves to Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, getting up there and being the MCs, and we came up with funny things and everything like that. But there was one day, and I want to say it was probably the second day, and I said, I just need to go back to my room for a little bit. The whole setting was in a hotel, so we both went up to my room, and I ended up taking, I think it was a really short nap, but I just needed to decompress and get away. And so I had to, and Carrie, for the most part too, sometimes we had to step away and just kind of decompress, get our energy back to be able to go back into that. I will tell you, when I came back home from that conference, because it was in Chicago, I think I might have even taken 1 or 2 days of PTO to kind of get that energy back and get back into things. It was very, very overwhelming. But when we talk about networking as an introvert, so I said it's not about being a shy person. Um, some of the tips I found about networking as an introvert, I found a really good quote, and it said, "Be curious, be present, and be patient." Some of the things that you can do are prepare some questions to ask. So maybe there's a couple questions, and if sometimes when you're at events, you might have a little notebook that you're carrying around. You can even write those in there and maybe take notes about the person. Or what I used to do is when somebody would hand me their business card, I might write a couple notes on the back of it. So I would remember that the next time I go to pick that up, or they email me, or I email them, or something like that. So be prepared to ask questions. And don't ask questions that are closed-ended, yes or no questions, or, short answer. Let them talk about themselves and let them tell you. Maybe it's like, well, why did you decide to get into this industry? Or what do you like best about this event? Or, um, what do you like to do in your free time? Like, just think of questions that are more open-ended. The other thing is, going in, expect that there is going to be some awkwardness. So I can tell you, I had gone to a conference in Palm Beach, Florida, and nobody else from my work was there. It was just me, and it was members, I believe it was a risk management related conference. I decided to put myself out there, and I went to a networking mingle before the big opening, and I was terrified. And what I did was I started to walk over and just start listening to people. I think you see this like on The Office. There's probably an episode of The Office all about this. But just started to listen and ask questions, and it was completely awkward. And sometimes it was like a total dive bomb, and I had to walk away. Felt like I had my tail between my legs. But so expect that there's going to be some awkwardness. It is weird to get into that if you're not used to it and you're not comfortable with it. The other thing is to smile. So the power of smiling and being able to give off that positive vibe, you'll likely have people come up to you, start to ask you questions and ask you about your work. And then so it's sometimes it's really easy just to talk about, what we do, what we're passionate about, and what we like. And the other thing is to challenge yourself. So I have heard of people that go into, maybe it's like a networking event or a conference or something like that, and they're like, okay, so today I am going to introduce myself to 3 people, or I'm going to ask 3 people questions, or however many people it is, or I'm going to talk to one of the speakers, and ask them a question or something like that. But just challenge yourself, kind of put yourself out there. The other thing that you can do, and I really like this idea, was to volunteer. So if you're nervous about networking and just maybe even going to an event on your own, or you only have a couple people from work and you have to divide and conquer to go to the sessions, or however that might work, or especially now that we're virtual, you're really in your own space, volunteer to help. You'll meet a lot of people through that. You can ask questions very easily from working on things to help to volunteer or put ideas out there and get to know people really well from doing that. So that's another great tip. So those are tips for you. I would appreciate if you drop any additional tips you have. If you're an introvert or if you're an extrovert who knows how or you know a lot of introverts, or you know how introverts feel, or if you've experienced, or maybe what you've done as an extrovert to make an introvert feel a little bit more comfortable. The other thing I want to remind you of is, through the end of February, anybody who registers, subscribes to the email list, will be entered in for a drawing for $50 cash. So go to upskilluniversity.com and make sure you subscribe today. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.